Hi BookTube and welcome to a new video. This video is going to be several things, including a book giveaway. But I'm just going to go back in a bit of recent history. So about 2 weeks before the lockdown in March, I finished writing a novel. And I had it in my mind that I was going to celebrate that plus passing 1,000 subscribers on my channel with a book giveaway. So I started sort of putting together books to include in this, and then lockdown hit, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get out to a post office and to get the envelopes and all that sort of stuff. But you know, several months later, I now feel confident that it's relatively okay to run the gauntlet, go to the post office. But I also have something else to celebrate other than finishing that novel and getting 1,000 subscribers. And that is that I have a new novel coming out in April that I've got a publishing deal for. It's called Stories We Tell Our Children, and it's going to be published by Lendl Press next April. And I'm going to do sort of videos about it nearer the time, but just briefly to say what it is here. It's a series of connected stories on the theme of storytelling. So it's not about the stories, but about the storytellers and how we structure those narratives with regard to passing information or life lessons or cautions or whatever to our children through storytelling. Now, it's not just, you know, literary storytelling such as fairy tales and YA books and genre books like detective fiction and science fiction. It's also non-literary narratives such as dance, boy bands, advertising. I've even got one, a narrative of jigsaws, which I sort of treat as a sort of a Rorschach's test, as a sort of a way into a child's mind. So that's kind of all I want to say about it for now, but worth celebrating, I think. So yes, and also, as I believe in sort of time-honoured fashion for booktubers, sort of various anniversaries or landmarks are celebrated by offering a Q&A, which I'm more than happy to do if there's enough interest in it. So for the books that I'm about to reveal for the giveaway, and also for the Q&A, if you have any questions you want, I'll just pop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer questions on anything. It doesn't just have to be about books, be they books I read or books I write. Sport, politics, film, music. Actually, no, let's probably avoid politics. But no, if you really feel moved, then by all means ask a political question. Science, philosophy, you know, I have many, many interests. Popular culture isn't one. So sort of reality TV shows, the current pop music charts, or basically anyone who's under the age of 30 I probably wouldn't have heard of. But you know, you can try, you can ask me and see where we go. So if there's enough interest in a Q&A, then I will endeavour to answer those questions in a separate video. So in terms of that and the book giveaway, I'm going to hold this open for a month. So what are we today? We're late August. So by the end of September, I will reveal who's got what book, and it's not going to be first come, first served. So if there's more than one claimant on a book, then I guess I'll come up with some method of drawing them out of a hat, figuratively. Okay, so on to the books that I want to give away. And I'm going to start with 4 books that have all been long listed or shortlisted for the Man Booker over the last few years. The first one is Lanny by Max Porter, which I read. It's sort of quite radical in its sort of typography, if I give you an example. It's quite lyrical because Max Porter is a poet. So you have things like that. And I would say that those parts of this book work very well. I really enjoyed that. It's also a book about, I guess, sort of folklore within small communities and scapegoating and all that sort of stuff. So, Lanny by Max Porter, paperback. Nightboat Tangier by Kevin Barry, which is shortlisted. Both of these were shortlisted last year, not the list that's just come out, but last year's, 2019's. Kevin Barry, an Irish writer, dust there. That's from March when I put it aside to give away. So two sort of Irish gangsters are looking for one of their daughters who's sort of run away from home, and they are at a ferry port between Spain and Tangier, and sort of on the lookout for her. And sort of going back over their sort of lives as gangsters. And again, a bit like Lanny, it's sort of quite poetic, quite lyrical. Solar Bones by McCormack, which is listed for Man Booker 2017, and also the winner of the Dublin Literary Award 2018. This is a story set in Ireland, which has a fantastic opening where basically a tractor has stopped working, and it's sort of been taken apart to sort of find out what's wrong with it, and all the parts are spread out on a sort of a tarpaulin or a sheet or whatever in the garage, and it's just wonderful writing with sort of, you know, metaphors, and really just paints a vivid picture. And then it goes on into I suppose ecological bent of the water supply has playing host to some bacteria that the authorities can't track down. So that is Mike McCormack's Solar Bones. And finally, in terms of Man Booker, Otessa Moshfegh, Eileen, which is the only Moshfegh that I've read, and this had a strange effect on me because it's a woman who sort of totally abases herself in life and in her relationships. She only has relationships in her fantasy life, and normally I don't like sort of characters who are sort of abject, but there's something about Moshfegh's writing that won me over, and I really quite enjoyed this, despite, you know, assuming that I wouldn't once I understood what kind of character we were dealing with here. I'm quite keen to read Moshfegh's other work to see if she continues. The thing about it is that when you read the blurbs of Moshfegh's, they don't appeal to me, but I do trust, to my experience of reading this, that actually I should get over that, as I did here, because she's a hell of a writer. Then a couple of non-fiction books. So the first is William S. Burroughs and the Cult of Rock and Roll by Casey Ray, and what a beautiful cover that is of Bowie and Burroughs. So this is a book ostensibly about how influential William Burroughs has been on rock music from the 60s and 70s on to today, with many sort of music maestros sort of paying homage to Burroughs, and a lot of them met him when he was in New York, and even some paid pilgrimage to him in Lawrence, Kansas towards the end of his life. But actually it's more than that. It's a good book about Burroughs' life generally. I would say if you've not read a biography of Burroughs, and this isn't strictly a biography, but if you haven't read a biography of Burroughs, this is as good as any place to start. If you've read lots of biographies, then maybe this isn't the book for you, because you'll know a lot of the detail, and all you'll get is the stuff about the musicians, which is obviously the focus of this. But, you know, for anyone who has an interest either in music or in rock and roll, so just give you an example of you know, people that Burroughs met or he influenced: the Rolling Stones, the Beatles had him on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's, David Bowie, Psychic TV, Patti Smith, The Clash, Joy Division, etc, etc. I mean, the list is endless. And this, which I haven't actually read yet because I only received 2 copies last week. One, Blake Butler, who wrote Alice Not, which will be in my top reads of this year. That's fiction. But Blake Butler, the author, is a chronic insomniac, as am I. And this is his book on insomnia, and it comes very highly touted. As I say, I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. But if anyone is A, a Blake Butler fan, or B, an insomniac, you know, this has got to be worth a punt, surely. I'm looking forward to reading this. Okay, the next one, I sort of have someone penciled in for it already, unless someone makes a claim and gets drawn out of the hat. This is Dave Eggers, The Captain of the Glory, which seems to be one of 2 books of his released last year. And this is a sort of a satire and a spoof of the good ship USA as piloted by Donald Trump. So it's all set on the high seas. And I think I've already talked about this book with Brian and said that you know, this is earmarked for him. But if someone else wants to make a claim, then I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do, because it is sort of promised to Brian. Okay, Alasdair Gray, a Scottish writer and artist who sadly died last year. This is 1982 Janine, book of his. It's probably the most associated with him. An unforgettably challenging book about power and powerlessness, men and women, masters and servants, small countries and big countries. Alasdair Gray's exploration of the politics of pornography has lost none of its power to shock. 1982 Janine is a searing portrait of male need and inadequacy, as explored via the lonely sexual fantasies of Jock McLeish, failed husband, lover and businessman. Yet there is hope here too, and the humour, imaginative and textual energy of the narratives achieves its own kind of redemption in the end. Now, I haven't read Alasdair Gray since probably my 20s, but he was a very important writer to me. You know, again, slightly on the sort of experimental side, I'd say. Are there any of his pictures in here? No, this is one that he hasn't illustrated. But, you know, Alasdair Gray, if, you know, this is as good a place as any to start with him. Okay, and now we come on to the truly experimental books. All three of these were sent to me by Mitchell Axler, who doesn't have a BookTube channel of his own, but is a prodigious reader over in Florida, in America. He and I are big fans of William Gass, William Gaddis and David Markson. When he sent me these in a box of many books he sent me, these are all doubles. I have them all already. So the first is Wittgenstein's Mistress by David Markson, which starts with the opening sentences on the cover. In the beginning, sometimes I left messages in the street. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much about these. William H. Gass, Omensetter's Luck, which is a beautiful book set in the 19th century Ohio about a preacher and his sort of bête noire, but the morality is reversed. The preacher is pretty corrupt and venal, whereas the parishioner is you know, totally sort of, you know, humble and a man of good moral fibre. And it's a brilliant book. It was Gass's first book. And Middle G by William H. Gass, which I haven't read. I have it, but I haven't read it yet. But I think it's set in the world of classical music composition. Now, I appreciate that Gass and Markson are not to everyone's tastes, and the Markson in particular is quite a difficult book. I feel a knowledge of Wittgenstein might help, it might not. So. Like the other books, these are available for individual bids, but equally, if no one particularly, you know, if each of the three don't get bid on or bid for, I'm happy to put all three together in a package to some lucky reader. So we'll kind of have to see how that goes. So either they'll go to three different, you know, happy homes, or if only one person is interested, they can have all three. I'm prepared to post these anywhere in the world. So as I say, this will close in September, so I guess I'll be posting them around October unless we have another spike. But I'm committed to doing this. The dates might get pushed back a bit, but this will be done. So again, very quickly to run through the books. Lanny by Max Porter, Nightboat to Tangier by Kevin Barry, Solar Bones by Mike McCormack, Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh, 1982 Janine by Alasdair Gray, The Captain and the Glory by Dave Eggers, a couple of non-fictions, Nothing by Blake Butler, and William S Burroughs and the Cult of Rock and Roll by Casey Ray, and then two William Gass books, Omensetter's Luck and Middle C, and finally David Markson, Wittgenstein's Mistress. So there you have it. Thank you for all the support I've received since. I can't say that I did set this channel up, because I was making book review videos anyway, and then I discovered there was this thing called BookTube, so I just elided and slid everything over to form a channel. But I guess I'd been up and running for 6 to 9 months before that, which is why I never know when my anniversary is on BookTube, because I don't really know kind of where to mark my starting. But, you know, 1,000 subscribers is, you know, something I never would have imagined. So thank you to each and every one of you. Here's a chance for me to give a little something back, and to celebrate the upcoming publication of my next novel in 2021. Okay, till next time, thanks very much. Quick addendum and a bonus part of the giveaway, or you might not see it that way, I should give away some of my own books. Thought suddenly struck me as I was editing. My last book, Three Dreams in the Key of G, which is shortlisted for the Not the Booker 2018. This is hardback, so hopefully should reach you in good condition. And then there's a separate package, 2 of my flash fiction collections. First one is 28 Far Cries, which is 28 short stories, or flash fiction I should say. And Extra-Curricular, Tales Told Out of School, where it is 44, I think, flash fiction stories arranged around a school timetable. Not in terms of the time, but in terms of they're grouped together by course subject. So, yes, I will add these to the giveaway.